found that, finding the priorities at each department and tying them back at how, with a sustainability lens, with a resilience lens, we can further their goals has been really successful. We are actually really lucky, and I'm so glad you asked the question. We have one of the best, I think, data teams in the country. From the start, our office has been working really diligently to understand our energy consumption from municipal operations. And as you could imagine, that was a very data-driven exercise where we inventoried every building, all of the energy usage, all of the energy cost, because it really sort of needs to be led by example. We're able to be transparent and show, where our numbers are, where our emissions are. We're able to, speak more intelligently about the tangible impacts of climate and emissions and resilience. But also create tools, right? These data tools for other departments. So every department can go in and kind of check in on their own energy consumption and costs. And that's only been sort of available to us because we have a data team that can produce, the dashboarding. Or on the resilience side, we're working on climate vulnerability index. So really, when you look at screening tools that have been developed by EPA or even at the state level, they get weighted across the nation. And so you'll see that because of our sort of disadvantage and low income prevalence in the city, the entire city lights up, but we're not able to see more granular characteristics. So we've began to take data sets and really weigh them, across the city itself. So we're able to see more of our gradation and start identifying priorities for those census tracts where the most vulnerable people live. Yeah, I can talk about data all day. So it's really important for us, in a time where it's hard to prioritize, to be data driven. We have started to analyze census tracts that have a high rate of air pollution, and we have started to look at sort of census tracts where folks might have a low rate of insurance. So, they have answered a question on the census that says that, they don't have health insurance. So what that shows is that, people with asthma might not be captured in those census tracts because they're not able to access, their medical needs because they're uninsured. So really sort of taking the data and understanding where the air pollution is, but also marrying it with information from the ground where we suspect that, high rates of pollution, probably lead to a higher rate of respiratory illnesses, and then kind of going into that community and further working with our health department to understand that community a little bit better. So yeah, those are sort of some localized examples that marry both sort of data and also that community advocacy and what we're hearing from the ground up. The county who has recently deployed 100 air sensors across the county, some of them in Detroit. So really trying to understand, what are those sensors measuring day to day, where are we seeing some trends, identifying some of those locations. But obviously the next step, once we understand the data, is to begin to mitigate some of the impacts in areas where we're seeing, high rates of pollution. One is acknowledging that you don't have to be a sustainability or environmental scientist or engineer to be able to think about how it's impacting us in our daily lives and our daily work. And so really thinking about translating concepts into things that are much more tangible would be a really good tip. It's less of an add-on and it's more of a way of thinking, so it's not necessarily asking people to do more. It's asking people to, include new thoughts into the room and maybe, shift the mindset a little bit so that the project can be better, really, instead of, asking people to do something extra. Because sometimes sustainability can be seen as oh, that's nice, we'll do it if we have time, or we'll do it if we have extra funding. So sort of changing that mindset of saying like, no, we can actually do it now with the same amount of resources.